Welcome to the VivoMiles Setup Training video. This video has been put together to ensure that you have a successful launch of VivoMiles to your school. It will cover the 9-step setup checklist. These 9 steps will need to be completed in full before you launch Vivo to your school. I will show you a few new features we have on the site. On the right hand side here we have all our new social media links. So you can click on the Facebook link. And the Facebook link will take you through to our official fan page, of course, so you can become a fan of Vivo there. Lots of students like to use this in terms of boasting to each other about their balances and chatting to each other about Vivo and the prizes that they like, and we sometimes run competitions on there and have riddles and sort of get the students involved and have a bit of fun as well. So that's the link there for that. We have the Twitter link as well, of course, so you can go to our Twitter page and follow us on there, and we keep you up to date on lots of various things to do with Vivo and other things on there as well. And the most important one is our new Vivo Insights blog. This blog has been put together to give you as much information as possible in terms of news, resources for your school. So in this section we'll be adding lots and lots of different things in terms of setup and training, downloadable documents, managing your Vivo budget, lots of tips and tricks and things like that. So you'll be able to come in here and gather information as you need to. You'll be able to find all copies of different various training guides in terms of the shop and setup and all sorts of things in there. Guides on how to effectively launch Vivo, how to relaunch, all sorts of things in there. So please do make use of this this blog as much as you can. Copies of our case studies and research and insights information and things like that is in there as well. And you can also link directly back to the site, or you want to contribute something, and also to our forum as well, so you can go through to that there. So please do make use of those social media links as much as possible on the right hand side of your home page. The first step of the training video I'm going to take you through is the budget section. So the budget is quite important in terms of making sure that you have all of your Vivos separated out according to the time period that you have to spend them in. So you purchase a particular amount of Vivos. Perhaps you may purchase an amount of Vivos for a term or a full school year, just depending on how you want to work your budget. So to go into get this set up ready to go, it will be the first step that you'll need to do. So it is vital that this is completed first. So if you go to setup, and then we'll go down to budget. So on the first initial training session over the phone with your dedicated account manager, you would have organised previously to have your Vivos added to your account. So once topped up, you'll see the total Vivos there. Current position will just give you a bit of information in terms of the amount of Vivos you've purchased, how many you've awarded, how many are reserved in terms of credit coupons, which I'll explain a bit later, and the average you award per week. Reimbursements, you'll see the amount here for the school shop dispatch. So as a school you have the option to add items to the school shop for students to purchase, switching on charities. So those are all tallied up there as students are donating to charity and buying items in your school shop. They will tally up there, and once per term we'll reimburse you via BACS payments to your bank account, which we will send you a form to fill out in regards to your bank details, so we can do this for you. So this is once per term. Each term, once the amount owing is paid back to you, this will reset back to 0. The amount paid to you will tally up into the total reimbursed to date area. This will reset back to 0, so you can then see for the next term, starting fresh again, how much is owed to you. You have the option to be reimbursed in pounds, so where we pay you by BACS once per term, or you can also be reimbursed in Vivos as well. So if you select this option, the page will refresh, and our finance department will know to reimburse you with Vivos. So any amounts owing will be topped up as Vivos back into your account, so you can reward those once again to students. Transaction history shows history of your purchases of Vivos, so you'll see your invoice numbers and details there. Charity donations just broken down by the different charity organisations you may have set up, so you can just see for the current academic year how many Vivos are donated to that particular charity. At the bottom, some notes there. So just in regards to the reserved amount of Vivos at the top, for the credit coupons, it includes any coupon credits that are being printed but not yet redeemed by students. Contact your account manager at the end of term if you require your reimbursement for school shop purchases and donations. This will happen automatically anyway, and as long as it's a minimum of £10, this will happen no problem. And charity donations will reimburse you with the payment at the end of the term for any charity donations made, and then it's the school's responsibility then to make the payment to the charity organisation at your leisure. So up the top now we'll go to budget. So the budget tab is where you'll set up your budget period and the amount of Vivos that you have to spend for the time period chosen. So I'm going to give you two scenarios. The first scenario is if you purchase an amount of Vivos for a full school year and you intend on spending those in the full school year. And the second scenario will be if you purchase, say, 1 million Vivos or £10,000 worth of Vivos, and that's your budget for the full school year, but you only want to use a certain amount per term. I'll show you how to set that up as well. So in the first scenario, a full school year, so we want to start on, say, Monday the 2nd of September, for example. So the budget start date must always be a Monday, and the end date always a Sunday, just to ensure we encompass full weeks going through the budget period. So we'll set the end date to the end of the school year for next year, for example. And then, so if you're wanting to spend all of your budgets or the amount of Vivos that you purchase, so in this case, Vivo Academy has purchased 1 million Vivos or £10,000 worth. We're going to break that down into amounts for staff and amounts for the auto attendance rewards budget, and I'll show you how to set up and how it works, the auto attendance feature, at the very end of the training session. I want to spend 20% of my budget, for example, on attendance. So I'm going to add 800,000 Vivos here and 200,000 into the auto attendance. We have a tool which I'll show you in a moment, a budget wizard spreadsheet, which shows you how to work these out and how much you can afford to give to staff per week to spend based on your budget, and how much you can afford to give to students per week for achieving 100% attendance and or punctuality. So we've set those up now, so we want 800,000 to be available for staff. Of course, staff will then be broken down into their weekly permission levels and budgets that you'll give them to spend. But think of this as like a big bank account that everyone has access to, and you need to release it for use. So no one will be able to reward until this is all set up and you click update here. And then 200,000 we're going to put towards the auto attendance. So between these dates that you've set, as you're rewarding, the amount will actually tally up here, and hopefully by the end of that time period you won't have any Vivos left and it will do the whole school year. Of course, you can top up your account at any time you need to. And then it's important to keep the system on allow staff to reward even if budget is exceeded, but this won't be applicable if you're setting a budget in terms of for a full school year and you're setting out the complete amount that you have purchased to spend. So once complete, just click update and that will refresh the system and everything will be ready to go then, and you'll be able to monitor the use of these particular budgets as you go through. You'll be able to see the actual awarded as you go along and the percentage amount. You'll then have an analysis at the bottom of the page, so the system will tell you how far as a percentage you are into your budget period, how much of your budget you have used so far in that period, and also the average you're rewarding per week. So that will tell you roughly what you're averaging per week, and based on that amount it'll give you an idea of whether you'll have a surplus or a deficit at the end of your budget period, so at the end of July next year. The second scenario I'm going to give you is if you only want to use part of your budget for a particular time period. So say for the first term, so until Christmas, we want to spend only £5,000 worth. So from September until Christmas we want to have a really good term, so we're going to spend quite a big chunk of our budget to start off with. So I'm going to put 400,000 into the available for staff area and 100,000, so 10% of my budget I'd like to spend on the auto attendance for the first term, just to see how we go. And then you click update again, and then that will update just to half of the budget, and we've set the time period till the end of December. So you can monitor then between this time period once again how much of the 400,000 and how much of the 100,000 has been spent here. And that will then leave you with a spare 500,000 vivos obviously going forward into your next 2 terms, and you'll need to update the date periods once again in the beginning of 2014 when school starts after the Christmas break. And in this case you'll be able to select allow staff to reward even if budget is exceeded. So once this 400,000 is rewarded, say staff are rewarding quite a lot and really getting into Vivo, which is great, just before Christmas you've exhausted the budget, so the full 400,000 has been rewarded, you'll be able to allow them to reward even if the budget is exceeded. Or alternatively, if the auto award budget has only rewarded 50,000 vivos in the first term, for example, you could take the other spare 50,000 and pop that up here just to bring that percentage down underneath 100% as you need to. You've got some little tips here, so you can hover over the question marks if you have any questions there. It'll give you a little bit of advice. Alternatively, your account manager will be more than happy to go through this with you over the phone if you're unsure of the explanation given here. So the tool is a great way to help you spread out your Vivo budget. It's been put together really well, and it just requires you to enter in the applicable information to your school, and it will calculate most of the things for you. It will not put that data back into Vivo, unfortunately, but it will give you an idea of what you need to set up in terms of roles and budgets and attendance and things like that. So click on the Download Budget Wizard spreadsheet. We'll open that up. So when the sheet opens up, it explains at the top, please use our wizard below to help you allocate your Vivo budget effectively. I'll explain these as we go down, of course, but anything in red is altered by you. Green must equal green, orange must equal orange, and blue indicates your error difference. So we're going to work out, for example, we'll base it on the full school year. So we have £10,000 to spend, and if we hit enter after we've entered the total budget in pounds at the top, so anything in red altered by you, of course, hit enter and it will calculate that amount in pounds. It will convert it to vivos for you. 38 full school weeks in a full school year, 6 half terms, of course, and I'm going to base it on 100 staff and 1,000 students. I want to spend 20% of the budget on attendance. So a lot of schools get a bit confused or are not sure on how much they should spend on attendance. I'd recommend starting out between 15 and 20%, just depending on how big your budget is, and also you may have attendance as an issue or punctuality as an issue at school. So if it is quite an issue and you'd like to see that attendance rate increase to ensure that Ofsted is happy with your attendance rates, then I'd recommend spending a little bit more on attendance just to make sure you can afford to give students enough vivos per week to encourage them to continue to attend and be punctual as much as possible. So that will break down then 20% of your 1 million vivos, so 200,000 for the budget on attendance and 800,000 for the remaining budget. So that's where we've put it in the cells you saw in the previous page. In the budget page, the vivos available to staff and the auto award budget, so that's where you would fill those areas in there based on this here. Going down, you'll see the staff role. So we've put in some example staff roles in terms of what you will set up to allocate staff to. So we've got an SLT role, a general teacher role, and a librarian role. You can set up support staff roles, teacher full-time role. A lot of schools will have roles in terms of being based on the amount of classes that staff have to teach per week. So SLT, so we're going to allocate 5 staff in our group to SLT, 94 staff to general teachers, and 1 staff to the librarian role. So this adds up to 100 here, of course, in the green cell, which must match the 100 staff users applicable in the green cell at the top. So green must always equal green in order to do the calculations effectively. And then here we have our Vivo weekly budget. So this is the amounts that we've added to give to the staff per week. So if we were to give 100 staff over 38 weeks these amounts to spend, we're going to be short. So this is always based on if staff all of staff were to reward each week, of course. So not everyone's going to be at school all the time or be able to reward their full amounts each week. So you're always going to have a little bit of a surplus anyway. But the system, this system will always calculate based on all staff having a weekly budget. So it's an idea to bring these down a little bit more, I think. So we're going to give SLT a much lower amount, because they shouldn't have too much, because they don't always have the time to reward, I've found in many schools that I look after. So it's important that staff who have the most interaction with students in the most classes per week have the most Vivos to spend. So we'll still need to bring this down a little bit more. So let's try for 220 there. And we'll bring the librarian down just a little bit more as well, so we might have to go a little bit lower. So that's now given me, you'll see, a positive figure here in the blue cell. So the blue always indicates the error difference. So if that was a negative number, it means you're overspending your budget, which you may want to do, because, as I said, not everyone's going to reward every week, so you're always going to have perhaps a small, even to a large surplus, because not all staff are going to reward, or they're not going to be there every week during the school year, etc. If you want to, you can even bring it down even further to give yourself a larger surplus. So you might want a couple of thousand Vivos to do mass rewards for students at the end of term. They always work really well in terms of mass rewarding for students that have had perfect attendance. You know, you've been giving them 5 Vivos a week. Perhaps you want to give an extra 50 Vivos to each student that's had perfect attendance in a term or a school year. So always give yourself a bit of a surplus if you're wanting to sort of reward for extra things around the school. Based on the 200,000 Vivos for attendance for 1,000 students over 38 weeks, you will have be able to afford to give 32 Vivos per half term. So divide these amounts by the number of weeks in a half term or term to give the weekly amount that you can afford to give each student for achieving 100% attendance and or punctuality. Now, not every student is going to attend or be punctual each week, of course, so you will be able to afford, I think, to round that up maybe 1 or 2 Vivos. So if it's 3 a week, you could probably afford to definitely round it up to 5 a week. If attendance is an issue at your school, as I mentioned before, it's always important to focus on that as much as possible, and give as much as you can in order to encourage the increase of attendance and punctuality at your school. So that's the Budget Wizard spreadsheet. If you're not clear on the explanation here on the training video, please do contact your account manager, or you can email support@vivomiles.com, and we'll be more than happy to explain this for you if necessary over the phone.